going to do this comparison a little bit differently. Now, this is the magnet mount version of the Stryker A10 versus the Siriio Performer 5000. You see the pictures here on top of my car, just to kind of get an idea of what they look like. Now, the Siriio, of course, has got a significantly larger magnet and a smaller coil. And also, as you'll see here, it's just a smidge taller. They're both pretty darn tall antennas. The Siriio, of course, also has the ability to be bent back. You can loosen a little thing there and bend it back. There's plenty of other videos on that, whereas the A10, the Stryker, can be unscrewed. Actually, both of them can be unscrewed if you need to without removing the magnet. Here's some of the specifications I got off the website for the Stryker. Of note, please, I've got circled the coax type and also what they claim to be the SWR bandwidth, although they don't necessarily specify from what point to what point. Here is some of the specs from the Siriio website regarding that antenna. I've got two different photos on that. Here's the first part, and then you'll see the second part here. You can pause and look and see what it has listed as the bandwidth and also the coax. Now, the coax came into play when I was analyzing these this time, because I specifically went into the Rig Expert and told it which coax. That way I can hopefully be as accurate as possible on the readings, not assuming that they are the same coax on both of them, because they have slightly different velocity factors. They also happen to be different lengths, but I'm taking them out of the package and not any modifications. So here's kind of a horrible picture, but let's start doing some pictures of the sweep of the bandwidth. The first ones here are of the Stryker itself. And this is where I'm actually putting into the Rig Expert what the coax for each one. The RG8X is what is on the Stryker per their documentation. And then the RG58 is what's actually written on its mil-spec 58 on the coax of the Siriio and on their documentation. I'll go back to the same thing, centering on 27.185, which is channel 19, going through, the sweeps. I'm going left to right, zooming in, zooming out. You can see how I did a lot of that on my other video, which I'll try to link down below. And I'm not going to bore you with watching me sitting in my car with a cell phone trying to go through all this. The main point of this video, and all I care about at this point, is comparing the bandwidth between the two. And here it is. So for each one of these, wherever it happened to be centered at the moment, I basically would sweep and see where does the SWR on the low end and on the high end hit 2-to-1. So everything in between is going to be at 2-to-1 or below. It may go all the way down to 1.1-to-1, whatever. But this is the curve that I'm worried about right now for my evaluation. I prefer not to transmit close to 2.1. I'd prefer to be at 1.5-to-1 or less, but you can do 2-to-1. So for the ones that I've got, the actual instances of these antennas that I've got, here you are. And you see the Stryker is not 2.0 in bandwidth. It's 1.715. The Siriio is significantly wider. And what that means is if I counted 2-to-1 as acceptable, I could center that Siriio bandwidth at 28.000 megahertz, and which is the very, very bottom of the 10-meter amateur radio band, and could be at 2-to-1 from channel 1 on the CB free channels all the way up to 29.040 in the amateur band, which takes in the vast majority of the active space for signal sideband and phone, which for the most part tends to be 28.3 to 28.5. seems to be where most of the activity is. And then as you get away from that, higher, you get a little bit less activity. And if you go below between 28.0 and 28.3, then that is not single sideband and phone. That's going to be CW and data and things like that. So I'm pleased with this. I found it interesting. I am definitely going to leave the Siriio on there. It is perfectly usable out of the box. I didn't have to tune it, and it is usable on the CB. Not a problem right now, but I am going to be retuning it closer to where I want. And there's plenty of channels and videos on how to tune a mag mount whip antenna. So hope you enjoy it. If you got any questions, any comments, preferably positive comments, just leave them down below. Thanks.